Hey, John, it's not over yet, but
Yeah.
congrats.
Thank you.
Just get that out of the way on a great career. I just wanted to ask you about, obviously, for a long stretch, you really carried that burden, so to speak, of for American tennis. I just wondered if you'd talk about what that responsibility was like, what you liked about it,
Yeah.
what you didn't like about it.
I never really, honestly, never felt like it was a burden. I mean, I do know the players before me are all, Hall of Famers. When I obviously talk about Andy Roddicks, he's in the Hall of Fame, and the guys before him. I don't need to mention their names, but I never felt like it was a burden to be the number one American. Maybe because I wasn't like in juniors and through college, I wasn't real spoken about. And so I think in a sense I sort of came on tour with not much pressure on myself because there weren't many expectations for me. And that helped me out a lot. So of course, I mean, I did take pride in being the best I could be. And I always did want to be the number one American. I'd be lying to you if I told you I didn't. But I never felt like there was this huge, enormous burden on me to try to get there. Because, when I was the top American, to be quite honest with you, American men's tennis wasn't what it was in the 90s or early 2000s, excuse me. So, but, being the top American, I don't know how many years it was, and just maintaining my ranking for a very long time is something I'm very proud of, and I took great pride in. The preparation that it took day in and day out, year after year after year, something I truly, really enjoyed that.
Did you get more out of it than you thought you would?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I've overachieved. I'd never imagined myself having this much success for this long. I mentioned in I think one of my statements, like, of course, there's so many matches I wish I could have back, but I prepared in my mind as best as I possibly could for 17 years. So I don't have many regrets, that's for sure.
Go Willie, Brian, Cindy.
Willie Weinbaum from ESPN. Thanks, John. You mentioned Andy Roddick. What to you is Andy Roddick's legacy on this 20th anniversary of him winning the U.S. Open?
I think just how hard he worked. He, I think, would admit, I mean, obviously he was talented. I don't think he was the most talented guy by any means, but he was an absolute bulldog on the court, of course, but off the court, and how he trained and how he took care of himself. One of the hardest workers I think this sport's ever seen. So, when I'm in college or in high school and seeing him, win the U.S. Open and then come on tour with him and see how hard he worked, it definitely showed me that I had a long way to go just to try to match him, because he was at the top of, top 10 forever, top 5 for a long time too, and he just worked his ass off each and every day. So just watching that for me was very inspiring, because if I wanted to be a top professional, I knew I had to, at least try to do what he does.
Brian.
Hey, John. Brian Money, Associated Press. Francis got asked that question earlier, and as soon as he heard Andy Roddick 20 years ago, he sort of rolled his head like he knew what was coming, that the Americans haven't won since then. Did you ever sense that it took its toll on the guys in your generation having to answer that question so many times? And just part two, we've seen a lot of players coming back, women from childbirth, some men. Yep. Kev Anderson playing. Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm certain. I can't put out a tweet. My tweet has like 5 million views or something like that, so I'm done. So, no, I think on the women's side, I think it's very cool and inspirational to see some of these women come back after becoming mothers. I think that's very unique. But on the men's side, it doesn't happen as much as it did happen with Kevin, but it won't happen with me. Yeah.
And the first part of the question about just hearing the 20-year, American man not winning a Grand Slam, did you feel like it took its toll on some of the guys in your countrymen hearing about that?
Maybe a little bit. It has been a long time. It's the longest stretch this country's ever had, for sure. So we'll see. I think American men's tennis is in very good spot right now. So I don't. I mean, who knows? Like, that could keep going because the number one player is pretty good and very young. So, but we have a lot of players that can definitely challenge for that Grand Slam. I mean, heck, Francis was a set away from being in the finals last year. So, just need things to fall into place for you. That, throughout the course of 2 weeks, and it's definitely possible. But we're in a good spot right now, I think.
Cindy.
I'm not telling you my name. No. 16 years ago, when you stood on that court in Athens and you led your team to the NCAA championship with your brother drunk and screaming from the stands, you look back now, and does that seem just a lifetime ago? And can you give us 3 absolute highlights? And I have to assume one of them involves Nico Mihut.
Yeah. No, it actually doesn't seem like that long ago, which is crazy. I mean, the Wimbledon match doesn't seem like 13 years ago either. So, because I have such fond memories of my time in Athens, and I mean, one of my tennis highlights, I think, was winning the national championship in 2007, because it was in our home stadium, and we had like 6,000 fans for a college tennis match, which is pretty unique. And I played Kevin Anderson on court 1, which is cool because we've kind of had similar careers in the pro ranks. As you mentioned, the match in 2010, there's no doubt about that. That was a insane match to be a part of. I think when I actually beat Andy Roddick here in 2009, because I'm just answering that question about Andy in the 3rd round in 5 sets on Arthur Ashe, that was for me a pivotal moment in my career. He was top 5 in the world, I think, and just to be able to beat him in front of that, in front of the atmosphere on Arthur Ashe court was so cool, because that's the guy who I looked up to, not literally, of course, but and be able to do that was fun. But that's also, it was a situation where no pressure was on me, and I was able to I guess, capitalize on that. But I've had a lot of great moments, a lot of moments not so great. There's some awesome moments in Davis Cup. I beat Roger Federer in Switzerland one time. That was cool. The court was really bad, and bad bounces were everywhere, and he didn't like that. I loved it. So the worse the court, the better for me. But it's not so much individual matches that stick out. It's just the memories I have with my friends on tour, and then the last 3, 4, 5 years, my family on tour. Very special.
Miss most, John.
I miss, I'm definitely going to miss mostly I'm going to miss the competition on the match court. I don't think I'm going to miss the practice, because lately it's been tough. I haven't been able to train like I'm used to, and nor should I. It's just when to ramp up my training, when to taper back, because if I train too hard, my body lately has been sort of breaking down on me. So it's just been tough. I haven't been able to put in the exact same work that I've been doing for my whole career, because my body just hasn't been quite allowing me to. So that's what's been difficult. I think that's why my results have suffered this year. I haven't been fully healthy this year. Hopefully I am this week. But again, I mentioned earlier, I took great pride in preparing, and it's not easy to get a body like mine ready to play for 17 consecutive years. It's not easy at all. So that was the part I really enjoyed, but all throughout my career. But lately it's becoming tougher. But certainly the atmosphere on some of the matches I've played, I'm going to miss, there's no doubt.
There's a question in the middle.
Hi, John. David Law from the Tennis Podcast. A lot of players, when they've retired, have spoken about a void that they feel after tennis. You spend a lot of years playing this sport, having these moments, and in your 30s, it's over. Are you worried at all?
I wouldn't say I'm worried, but I'm not going to sit here and act like it's going to be easy. I think some players might put on a brave face and say, oh, they can't wait for retirement. It's not really that. I mean, I wanted to play this sport as long as I possibly could, but inevitably it was going to end. I'm there's probably going to be a lot of tough times, because for the last 17 years, just professionally, I would wake up every morning and just like, how do I get better? If it's on the practice court, or if it's just in the gym, or if it's just resting that day, like it's just about trying to keep myself going year over year over year. And I'm not going to have that anymore. So there's definitely going to be that void. Fortunately for me, the most important thing is that I got an amazing life at home. So I'm going to lean on my wife and kids as much as I possibly can to fill that void. But I'm going to need to stay busy because that's just how I'm wired. I can't just be home all the time. Of course, I'm going to be the best dad I can possibly be, but I'm going to have to channel my energy elsewhere and attack some different avenues professionally to keep me going. Well, we'll see. I mean, I don't know how much it's going to be in tennis. I could see myself doing some TV. How much? I don't know. I think I could be okay at it. Maybe not, but I'd like to certainly give it my best shot. See what I want to do in the business world. Where I live right now in Dallas, Texas, is a great place to be. I have a lot of great friends and mentors there that can help me out in that regard. But the key is going to be to stay busy, because that's what's going to keep me mentally there. It's going to allow me to be the best father and husband I can possibly be. So I think it will be a challenge. I don't pretend it's going to be easy, but I am looking forward to it.
Okay. Last two questions. Andrew.
Andrew Jones with ESPN and Skate. John, congratulations on his career. When did you know, considering how you've beaten Tommy, beaten Rinky this summer, was so close against Jordan Thompson, so you're still very much competitive and a threat to anyone. When did you know that you've made this decision, that you were set in stone, and now you have a fall to enjoy your Georgia Bulldogs going for a third straight national title and being able to be on the sidelines to watch that finally? Just your thoughts on those things.
Yeah, but I think I knew. I will say it wasn't like at the beginning of this year. I didn't. I knew it could be possible, but I did want to play as long as I could. If my results were better this year, I probably wouldn't be speaking to you right now. But that just hasn't been the case. This year's been tough health-wise. I had a foot thing that just bothered me for a long time. I wasn't able to train really at all, but I was still playing without much practice, and it just wasn't much fun. It just became very laborious for me, just trying to get myself healthy and not really being able to do it, and competing not quite at 100% for a little bit too long this year. And it's very taxing mentally on me. And then you take a few losses here and there, and it just becomes tough, a little bit discouraging. But I did know that if I was going to retire this year, it was going to be at this tournament, which would be amazing. And so I would say I really knew about, I don't know, maybe right around the French Open time, maybe after the French Open, that this was probably going to be it. And I'm happy with my decision. There's certainly no regrets right now.
Okay. Last question.
Thank you very much. John, real quick, you've had a great career, and your career happens to have overlapped with the invention and advent of social media. Mm-hmm. And in that time, I've watched the fans and the users go from being friendly interactions with players to becoming less friendly. Yeah. And so I guess what I want to ask you is what advice would you give to the young guys out there starting out now when it comes to social media?
Well, yeah, I would probably just ignore the hate as much as you can, because us professional tennis players, we get it in an individual sport. We get it after every single match we play. It's really kind of crazy the stuff people can say, but you sort of just have to feel sorry for them, because most of the time it's people that have lost money on you. I kind of chuckle at it. If I choked and they lost money on me, like, it kind of makes me smile a little bit. But that's what social media. It's obviously we know it does amazing things for the world, but there's a flip side to it as well. But I think if people just can get face to face with different points of view, most people are civil, but just try not to respond to that hate and just ignore it as best as possible. It's not easy. There's no doubt about it, but that's just how it is nowadays. And when you see the messages people write, you just try to delete them as quick as you can and just forget about it. It's only short term, and it stinks that people have to be that way, for sure.